Before we start today's lesson, I just want to review some of the key terms for trigonometry. So here we have a right angle triangle. This side is our hypotenuse, and the side that is opposite of the angle. And then we have this side that is beside the angle, adjacent. And this angle could be any angle, so that's why we just call it angle theta. And the way you say it is like theta. With that, I would just want to bring to your attention again, opposite divided by hypotenuse is sine. So sine of any angle theta is your opposite side divided by your hypotenuse. The cosine or cos theta of any angle theta is your adjacent side divided by your hypotenuse side. And the tangent is your opposite divided by your adjacent side. So there's an easy way to remember this stuff. If you take the first letter, S-O-H, then that one is called SOH. Sine theta is equal to opposite divided by hypotenuse. The cosine, C-A-H, cosine is adjacent divided by hypotenuse, and tangent of angle theta is opposite divided by adjacent. So this is a short form way, SOHCAHTOA, of helping you remember this whole thing. So if you're looking to find sine, opposite divided by hypotenuse. Okay, so let's move on to an example. In example 1, we want to find the height of the triangle, so we're looking for this side. When we're doing trigonometry, it's always a good idea to figure out what side you're working with, which side you know, and the names of all those sides. So the first thing I'm going to do is label them. That side's the hypotenuse. This one here is our opposite side. And the one down here, our adjacent side. Okay, so once we have it labeled, then that means we are looking for the opposite side. When you know which side you're looking for, then you can determine which of the 3 trigonometric ratios you want to use. So we have hypotenuse, we have an angle, and we need opposite. So that kind of means that adjacent isn't very useful in this situation. If you look at our 3 ratios, this one has the tangent, it has adjacent side. We don't know the adjacent side and we don't need it, so you can cross that one off the list. Cosine has the adjacent side in the formula, but again, we don't know it, we don't need to know it, so that's useless for us. Our sine theta, though, is opposite divided by hypotenuse. This is something we need and we have. So that means we are going to use sine theta opposite over hypotenuse. Once we have the formula that we want, we can start inputting the information that we have. So our angle is 30, hypotenuse is 5. So we have here sine 30 is equal to the opposite divided by hypotenuse 5. Okay, the next thing to do, I'm going to show you in the calculator here. So this is just a scientific calculator app that I got, and it's called RealCalc. If you're on an iPhone, you can just turn your phone sideways and it will bring up all these other functions. So we're looking for sine because we're working with sine. So I have here, depending on what your calculator does, some of them you might have to press the sine button first, then you put the angle, 30. Some of them you put the angle first and then you put sine. So in this calculator, I have to write the angle first, 30 degrees, and then I put sine. So that means here on this side it's 0.5 is equal to opposite over 5. So we're looking for the opposite side, which means I have to get rid of this 5. I can multiply both sides by 5. When I do that, this 5 and the 5 below gets cancelled, and then I have 5 times 0.5. If you do that in your calculator, that means that our opposite side is 2.5 centimeters high. So how this relates to the stuff that we did yesterday or the day before was if we have our reference triangle, 30 degrees, and it had a hypotenuse of 1. So if you look on GeoGebra and you move the angle so that you get 30 with a hypotenuse of 1, then it will show you that the height of that triangle is 0.5. So that's how you get the 0.5 if you go 30 sine. Then it gets 0.5. So what the calculator does is it kind of has like this triangle inside the calculator, and it's got all the different angles all programmed in. So that once you know which angle it is, it can figure out the number, the height, or the base of the triangle, depending if you're doing sine or cosine. So if we go back to this, you can see that our hypotenuse, you have to times it by 5. Which means if we want to find our opposite side, we should also times it by 5. So if we use this similar triangles way, then it's 5 times 0.5, which still gives us 2.5. Moving on to question 2. Here we want to find the side x. Again, before doing anything, you want to label your sides. This one is our hypotenuse. This one's opposite. And this one is our adjacent side. And I'll just rewrite the SOHCAHTOA here. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tan is opposite over adjacent. Okay, so we want to find side x, the adjacent side, and we have the hypotenuse and the angle. So we want to look at what is possible. If we look at the sine, opposite and adjacent, opposite and hypotenuse, we don't have the opposite side, so we cannot use sine. If we look at cosine, opposite divided by hypotenuse, adjacent divided by hypotenuse, we have adjacent, hypotenuse, so that could work. Tangent, opposite divided by adjacent. Again, we're missing the opposite side. We do have the adjacent side, but we're missing the O, so we can't use it. The only one that works is cosine. So I'll rewrite the whole formula out. let's get, so we are cosine. Cosine of angle is equal to our adjacent divided by hypotenuse. And now I'll substitute the numbers in. We have cosine of 70 degrees is equal to x, so our side x, divided by our hypotenuse, that's 5. So once you have that, you can look in your calculator. So this is where I highly suggest that you have a scientific calculator so you don't have to keep fiddling with your phone, turning it, keep on getting it on and everything. It's just, if you have a scientific calculator, it's just there and it works. So I want to find the cosine of 70. So in my calculator, I'll go 70 cos. And that gives me 0.342. There's a bunch of other decimals in there. I'll keep it in the calculator. I just won't write it on the paper. Now I want to solve for x. That means we have to get rid of the 5 times 5 times 5. So here I can just go multiply by 5 and get 1.71 centimeters. So again, you can kind of relate this question back to what we did the other day with the reference triangle. If instead of 30, this was 70 to match here, we still have a hypotenuse that is 1 and 5. So that means you have to multiply by 5. That's why in this question, you're still multiplying by 5. So it kind of matches up like that. Okay, let's take a look at question number 3. Question number 3, we want to find side x. So before we do anything, again, always label your sides. That's our 90 degree. This one is our hypotenuse. Then we want to figure out what side is side x. We have our angle. That means side x is our opposite side. And 7 centimeters is our adjacent side. So what I want you to notice here is that it's very important to label your sides first. If you compare it to question number 2 and question number 1, the opposite side was always the height and the adjacent side was always the base. But it really depends on where your angle is that you're working with. So we're working with the angle 25, and the side that is opposite is this side. The base is actually your opposite side in this case. And adjacent is the side that's beside the angle. So you have to mark out the names of each sides before starting to actually solve anything. Once we have that, then we can go ahead and see which of the trigonometric ratios we are going to use. So we want to find side x, which is opposite, and we have the adjacent. So that means anything with hypotenuse is not going to work for us. Here we have hypotenuse. That means sine is not going to work. Cosine is not going to work either. The only one that's going to work is if we use tangent. We have tangent theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. So you see how if I would have chosen either sine or cosine, if I have something like this, I would be able to find the hypotenuse if I had the opposite, but I don't have in this equation, I'm missing two things in this fraction. So there's not enough to solve. But here, I have the angle, I have the adjacent, so I can find the opposite side. So you need two of the three things in here. Then we can substitute the angle in. Tangent of angle 25 is equal to our, I'm going to change that to the x. That'll be x. And our adjacent side is 7 divided by 7. So when you get here, you can get your calculator and figure out what is the tangent of angle 25. 25 tan. So 0.466. In order to solve for x, we want to multiply both sides by 7. So then here, I will times that by 7, get 3.26. Okay, so there we go. The first thing you want to do before starting any of these trigonometry problems, figure out which side is your hypotenuse, which side is your opposite, which side is your adjacent. And that all depends on the angle that you're given and the angle that you're working with.